that we do have interpretation to Russian language available for all participants who require it. So please, if you do require Russian language translation, please click the interpretation button at the bottom of the Zoom application and select Russian. So again, if you require Russian translation, please go to the bottom of the Zoom application and click the interpretation button and select Russian. We will also have questions and answers right throughout the webinar series, and this will be available through to you in the Q&A function, which again you will find at the bottom of your Zoom platform. This is there for you at any time during the sessions, and it will allow for you to either raise questions or provide comments, and we really warmly welcome you to do so right throughout. We will try to raise as many of them as we can in this Q&A sessions parts of the program. So please do write them in, and I'll be looking through and collating them and bringing up the questions and comments where I can through to our expert presenters right throughout this series. So please, again, feel free to at any time use that Q&A function for any questions, comments, either about the content or indeed how it might be applicable to your country or your city. We're really keen to hear from you right throughout the program. And again, I'll be bringing up some of those questions into the Q&A sessions throughout the program. Next slide, please. Okay, some further housekeeping. So we will be having, each webinar will be 120 minutes in length. And again, we will include time for questions. I'm also very pleased to let you know that the sessions are being recorded. And so these recordings and the PowerPoint presentations will be available following the sessions. So please look out for those. And ensure that you take use of those valuable resources, because we really do want to have this learning there for you ongoing and not just a one-off. So please look out for those, the recordings and the presentations right throughout this series. Next slide, please. Okay, so just a little bit about course expectations. So there will be a certificate of attendance issued, and this is to participants who attend all of the sessions in this program. If you're only able to join a few, please, you're still welcome to do so, and we encourage you to tune in. But yes, if you're looking to get a certificate, please just note that we will be expecting attendance on each of the sessions. And there will be a group activity at the end of the, later on in this program. It will be optional, but highly recommended to take that, because it'll be a great way of I guess, exploring further some of the key concepts that will be talked about right throughout this program. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have a great program of presenters today, and I'll be introducing them formally as they come through one by one. But just rest assured, we've got some great speakers with you today, and I think the next slide also just showcases to you what are the key topics we're looking for. Thanks, Noel, today. But just before we jump in, let me do two things. One is, again, a reminder that if you require interpretation into Russian language, please do select the interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom application and select Russian if you require that. Another reminder that if you would like to ask any questions or make comments, please use the Q&A function in your Zoom application. This is the way that we will be fielding any interaction from our participants, and we warmly welcome that interaction. And we'll be trying to raise as many questions and comments as we can through the sessions. But before we then commence into the first session, let me again remind you we're here for this session, which is looking at helping saving lives from road crashes in Asia Pacific, a webinar series on safer road infrastructure in the Asia Pacific. This program is brought to you by the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank in partnership with the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory, the International Road Assessment Program, and the Global Road Safety Partnership. So this is a 5-part webinar series on safer road infrastructure, and it is designed to be aligned to the new global plan of action for the second decade of action for road safety, which I'm sure many of you will be aware was launched recently. So we will be identifying the road infrastructure related recommendations in that plan, and critically we'll be looking at how to address them and implement them. And this program is really about that. It's translating knowledge into operations, into practice. So this is what we will really be focusing on right throughout this particular session. Of course, we know the horrific toll of road trauma right throughout our region. So this series is really about investigating those recommendations in the new global plan about road infrastructure and giving examples, guidance, tools on how to action the recommendations to bring down that road trauma throughout our region. So this program is actually delivered to you under the auspices of 2 programs. The first is the World Bank's Global Road Safety Facility and iRAP's program Helping Save Lives, which is through the Bloomberg Philanthropies Initiative for Global Road Safety 2020 to 2025 series. So this program aims to introduce the iRAP approach for those who want to use the methodology to help eliminate high-risk roads and share case studies of initiatives supported by the World Bank's Global Road Safety Facility and the Bloomberg Philanthropies Initiative for Global Road Safety. Previous webinars in this series have been already delivered for Latin America, India, and Africa, and later in the course we will be sharing with you access to those, so you might be interested to see previous sessions in that particular program. The second program through which this particular series is being delivered is the Road Safety Capacity Building Program, which is a series of online modules supported by the Asian Development Bank, the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory, and delivered with the Global Road Safety Partnership and iRAP. During 2021, modules were delivered on road safety management and on safer road users. And again, those are available for your access. So please look through the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory website for those resources. And we really stress the importance of taking the opportunity outside of course, this program to look across those 2 programs and see the raft of information available, and particularly looking at how safer road infrastructure is one key part in combination with other interventions that I've mentioned there. So we really want to see how this particular area of focus sits within a broader safe system framework. So we really do encourage you to look for those resources from those 2 programs that, again, through which this series is being delivered. So we're really thrilled to have a fantastic range of participants from, I think, more than 30 countries. So we really look forward to hearing your thoughts and again, your experience from your different countries. But also, I guess what I want to do before I now pass over to the first speaker is really encourage you, every one of you participants, to use this collective experience that you'll have access to over this series. This is a really unique opportunity where we'll be gathering real regional and global experts to talk to you about these issues and translate this plan into action. So be greedy with that resource. Put questions in, make comments, get in touch with us. Please remember that we're here to help, and we're here to pass on knowledge and experience, but also to hear from you. So please do ensure that you really capitalize on this experience and get out of it as much information as you can to be relevant for your particular context. Okay, so with that, let's pass over to the next slide, please, Noelle. So I'm now going to invite in onto the screen our first speaker, who is David Shelton, who is the Senior Transport Specialist for Road Safety with the Transport Sector Group of the Asian Development Bank. Dave's role is in the ADB is to support transport projects to apply the safe system thinking for best possible reductions in death and injury from road use, enhance road safety capacity within the Asian Development Bank, and help build road safety management capacity in developing member countries. He also leads the Secretariat to the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory, and his experience covers road system management, regulation, policy, and strategy. He has led the development of road safety strategy at state and national levels and contributed to capacity building in safe system in public and private sector organisations internationally. He has a passion for building and supporting what is needed in multi-stakeholder settings to save lives in road transport. And prior to joining ADB, Dave was a senior executive in government in Australia and co-founded Lonzinga PL, a forum specialising in Vision Zero planning, and was a principal consultant with Safe System Solutions Proprietary Limited. So with that, I'm now going to pass over to Dave for the first session, and I wish you all well right through this series. Dave.
Thank you, Blaise. Noel, let's get into the slides. Firstly, on behalf of the Asian Development Bank and the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory, I'd like to welcome everybody to this session, particularly all of our colleagues across Asia and the Pacific. It's terrific to be in combination with yourselves talking about these critical issues. Quick acknowledgement to World Bank and Bloomberg Philanthropies as our key partners in delivering this program, and of course, iRAP and GRSP. I'm going to briefly walk through a bit about why we are focusing on road safety in our investments and financing at Asian Development Bank, and then a bit about some of our activities. I'm going to use the 12 global voluntary targets as a basis for that discussion. But firstly, we must acknowledge the terrible toll that is paid right across Asia Pacific for the use of our roads. And it is, as we all know, entirely unacceptable and unnecessary. Over 750,000 rather, people die every year on our roads across Asia and the Pacific. This is something like 55% of the global total. A further 10 times that are estimated to suffer severe injury in crashes every year. As a result, of course, tens of millions of families and relatives suffer grief, loss, and a lessening in life's opportunities due to road trauma. In some of our member countries, road trauma is estimated to cost over 5% of national GDP. There's also a startling and troubling inequity in the distribution of safety on the roads across Asia Pacific. Our safest countries see fewer than 5 deaths per 100,000 population, while our poorest performing countries, that figure's over 20. Thanks, Noel. You'll all be familiar with the UN General Assembly's resolution to reduce deaths and injuries by 50% by 2030. It's an ambitious target, and we're assisted by also the declaration of the second decade of action on road safety. Yeah, we get a second chance. It's amazing, isn't it? We get a second focus on this big issue. That's what today is about. ADB, along with other multilateral development banks, have expressed support for this ambitious goal, and that's why we're bringing you this training. Thanks, Noel. These are the 12 global voluntary targets for road safety. They're part of the Global Action Plan. They form one of the annexes in the plan. Go and have a look at it. It's all there. It's very useful. They are safety performance indicators that reflect to us the progressive transformation in the road system towards the safety state that we need to get our 50% reduction in death and injury by 2030. I'm going to use them to comment on ADB's road safety initiatives and also to make some comments about things that we need to be doing better to reach our targets. No. The first two of these address road safety management. Firstly, ADB has been financing sub-regional and national road safety strategies for some time, but there's a lot more to do. Every country needs to have an action plan in place. The second target is about the accession to the UN road safety related legal instruments. Many countries have already acceded to many of these instruments. However, the implementation in this is the challenge. Ensuring that implementation is effective is really what's needed to get the uplift from these new regulatory changes. Thanks, Noel. The next two targets address infrastructure and speed limits. At ADB, transport continues to be the largest investment area. And there is an increasing adoption of safety ratings in our road projects. But there's more that we need to do in order to make sure that those targets we set for our projects support a 50% reduction by 2030. The fourth target, the majority of our investments are going into the highest volume roads. This helps us get a 75% of travel on 3-star or better roads right across the Asia Pacific region. Thanks, Noel. Target number 5. Our strategy work with countries and regions addresses the whole of the safe system, but it's clear that there's a lot more work that we need to do on vehicle standards. Again, this is partly the accession to some of the UN regulations, but it's also putting more effort into building community demand for safe roads, safe vehicles, safe motorcycles. Thanks, Noel. The next group here in green of the targets address road user behaviour, including speeding. Significant amounts of our financing go towards training and equipping traffic police to improve their enforcement. We need to continue and to expand that effort. And number 11 is particularly challenging. Target number 11 is about using the management of time to manage fatigue in driving. This has been a challenge all around the world, and there's a lot of work that we need to do in our member countries to improve the management of regulated driving hours and its impact on fatigue. Thanks, Noel. The last one of these targets is about post-crash care. ADB has provided some financing for improving crash response and trauma system performance. But once again, there's a lot more that we need to do here to collaborate with our health sector partners to build performance in response and management of the trauma that's coming from crashes. And that's something that everyone can be doing at their country level also. So let's have a look at a few projects now. Thanks, Noel. I'm going to look at projects that build capacity throughout the road safety management system. I've chosen just 4 to illustrate some of the breadth of the activity that we're doing, and perhaps inspire you to come and talk to us about what we might do in your country to work with you. Thanks, Noel. The first of these is the Carrick Road Safety Program. This work is currently underway. This is a sub-regional project, and it aims to embed road safety features into road projects in the first instance. This is safe infrastructure work. It also aims to improve the technical support for national road safety policy initiatives and to provide institutional support for strengthening and capacity building. This investment's already developed a strategy for Carrick countries. It's developed a number of road safety engineering manuals, and there's more of those to come. It's established in supporting the Regional Road Safety Committee and delivered a growing amount of road safety training, technical training across countries in the Carrick sub-region. Thanks, Noel.
Just 2 minutes left, Dave.
Great. The next project is a quite exciting one in India that we're doing with the World Bank, co-financing that with the World Bank and the Indian government, aiming to support states to continue their implementation of safety at a state level. This is a results-based loan and is the first of its kind globally. Thanks, Noel. The next one I'm focusing on here is a completed project, improving road safety across ASEAN. This work developed a lot of capacity across ASEAN countries. It's notable because of its achievements. It's also notable because we need to pick it up from there, follow through and do more with our ASEAN countries, and we are aware of that. The final one I wanted to point out is, of course, the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory. Please step forward, Noel. Thank you. The observatory is a multi-agency supported initiative. You can see all the logos here. It's got a data focus. It focuses on learning and growing capacity for managing road safety across our member countries. If your country is not a member already, get in touch with us at ADB through the website for the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory. Thanks, Noel, and back to you, Blaise.
Thanks so much for that, Dave, and great to hear of the activity and the strong focus of on road safety right throughout the operations in Asian Development Bank, and also some of those specific examples there that you gave. Okay, so let's now move through to our next presenter, who I will now invite onto the screen, and that is Alina Berlacu. And Alina is a senior transport specialist with the World Bank's Global Road Safety Facility, managing the Bloomberg Philanthropies Initiative for Global Road Safety program spreading across 15 countries. Starting in 2017, she's been spearheading road safety work with a diverse portfolio of Asia Pacific governments, and has been managing a diverse team of road safety professionals working at the nexus of numerous national, municipal, and local governments throughout Asia Pacific. Prior to joining the World Bank, Alina served as the personal advisor to the Prime Minister in the Romanian government, leading the elaboration of the National Road Safety Strategy and Action Plan in that country, but also the National Road Safety Law that enforced road safety audits and inspections in the country. While her over 14 years of practical experience in road safety gave her a grounded perspective, she has also a scholarly background in the subject from the University of Civil Engineering Bucharest, Romania, and also Stuttgart University, Germany. She also holds a PhD in civil engineering, specializing in road safety, and has co-authored 2 road safety manuals and a series of technical reports and papers. My goodness, very impressive. And so we are delighted to, of course, have Alina here today. Alina, I'll pass it over to you now. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Blaise. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much also to all the participants. I see we have over 500 people already connected. Thank you so much for joining us, and I do hope you'll find this event series useful for your work in road safety. And Noel, yes, thank you so much. I would like to just briefly start a bit with with a bit of a background on why World Bank is working in road safety, very briefly as an introduction. So the fact is that the World Bank, as an international financial institution, is aiming for poverty reduction. And in 2013, the World Bank launched its new strategy with 2 ambitious goals: boosting shared prosperity by 2030, and also end extreme poverty. And we know that low and middle income countries suffered 93% of the road crash death and injuries. And these death and injuries increase poverty and reduce shared prosperity by driving families into economic hardship, and in many cases poverty, when the family's primary income earner is killed or suffers disability. In addition, crash death and injuries drain human capital and create costs which have been shown to significantly limit the economic growth of low and middle income countries. Next slide, please. Basically, improving road safety is critical to the World Bank's twin goals. If we look beyond also the personal impact that the road crash has on those affected and their families. And basically, to be able to manage this and improve road safety globally, in 2016, the World Bank adopted a new environmental and social framework, which calls for road safety to be considered on projects financed by the World Bank. And this means not only transport projects, but all types of projects that may affect the safety of stakeholders in the project area, which means construction workers, affected communities, and road workers. So for example, even if the World Bank, let's say it's financing a hospital, road safety will still be incorporated and embedded in that project. Next slide, please. In addition to this work, the World Bank is also hosting the Global Road Safety Facility since 2006, which is a multi-donor fund supporting low and middle income countries. And thanks to the generosity of our donors, who are all recognized, well, were supposed to be recognized at the bottom of this slide, but not the case as the slide was edited, we managed to attract over 73 million US dollars for a very diverse set of research, advisory, and capacity building projects. But at the same time, we are also a global knowledge and expertise center, which provided support to cover 80 developing countries. And thanks to GRSF funded support to the developing countries and guidance to the World Bank funded investment projects, thousands of lives have been and will be saved in the next decades. But there is still a long way to go in cooperation with our global and regional partners. And the World Bank GRSF, next slide please, has also partnered with Bloomberg Philanthropies, who is the biggest single donor in road safety and has dedicated more than 259 million over the last 12 years to implement life-saving interventions in low and middle income countries and cities. Basically starting 2010, Bloomberg Philanthropies launched the road safety in 10 countries, which was followed by the Bloomberg Philanthropies Initiative for Global Road Safety, or BIGRS, 2015-2019. It is estimated that out of these two projects, we were able to save 312,000 lives and prevented up to 11.5 million injuries. And in February 2020, the Bloomberg Philanthropies launched its current 6 years BIGRS phase, which is a 240 million initiative that builds from the success and impact of the previous two, in which World Bank GRSF was engaged in the past decade. The next phase of the BIGRS will run until 2025 and aims to save 600,000 lives and prevent up to 22 million injuries in low and middle income countries, focusing on 15 countries and 13 cities, as you can see on the screen. Next please. In this new phase of BIGRS 2020-2025, the World Bank GRSF is one of the 10 global partners and will focus mainly on national level work in selected countries. The team will engage governments in priority countries to support their efforts to adopt safer road infrastructure designs and improve existing road networks to accommodate all road users by conducting assessments of high-risk roads, improving recommendations for safety improvements, providing technical guidance on speed management, and supporting governments to adopt or improve crash data management systems. Next slide, please. One of the milestones for World Bank GRSF in this new program was to establish a speed management hub, since we've identified speed as one of the top risk factors for road safety. And this basically, the Speed Management Hub acts as a platform and has the primary focus to provide technical expertise on speed management strategies to all those interested, and also help deploy countermeasures along risk-prone sections of the national and regional network to achieve a significant reduction in speed. And also it includes analytical work related to the economics and benefits of speed management. So in February 2024, so exactly a year ago, we were able to launch an interactive speed management hub platform where the GRSF team provides evidence-based road safety knowledge to help manage speed through infrastructure interventions, effective enforcement, targeted awareness measures, and vehicle technology. The Speed Management Hub also allows the wide dissemination of frequently asked questions on speed management, together with a rich library and also latest news and best practices on this topic. I would strongly encourage those interested to take a look. You can see the link on your screen. These FAQs actually include also a section with several myths around speed management. So feel free to take a look. We've just launched 4 FAQs and myths just last week. Feel free to take a look at the latest one that were just added to our website. This will be a live hub, and we will continue to update it. Feel free also to ask your questions there, whatever they might be in relation to speed management and road safety. Thank you. In addition, the World Bank GRSF has also been working on the assessment of high-risk national road network and providing support implementation of improved infrastructure safety measures in selected priority countries. This was done mainly by coupling efforts in countries where World Bank projects already exist, and also enhance project ownership and sustainability through well-structured capacity development for stakeholders, with a focus on strengthening competencies in infrastructure safety assessments, project planning and investment prioritization, pragmatic speed management practices, and data collection and management mechanisms. And basically, this course this webinar series that you are joining right now is actually an example of the work that we've been doing in terms of capacity building on road infrastructure safety under the big RS. And we are also very happy to share with you that over 9,000 people already joined our learning activities in the past 2 years only. Next slide, please.
Alina, just over a minute left.
I thought so. So further on, just very briefly to mention some of the highlights that of the work that we've been doing in some of the countries, the big RS countries in India. So we've been involved in safety assessments in India, both at national highways, but also in Mumbai, together with crash data management and capacity building. Next slide, please. We've also been working in Bangladesh, where we've been providing support for the Bangladesh Road Safety Project financed by the World Bank. And also very recently, we have completed a national crash data review study, which we're hoping will be able to support the government in improving their current crash data management system. And also we are translating our GRSF Think Road Safety course into the local language. Next slide, please. For Vietnam, we've also been involved in several safety assessments in support of 2 World Bank projects, National Highway 19, but also other national highways, and also in Ho Chi Minh City. And also we are very happy to be working with the local authorities in updating manual and the standard for 2-wheelers road infrastructure and making sure that road safety is embedded into these 2 documents. And last but not least, for the Philippines, next slide, please. We've also been involved in a series of safety assessments in support of our World Bank project in Cebu and Manila, but also on active transport mobility in supporting the government in implementing safe bicycle lanes across the country. And of course, also the deployment of the driver tool as a crash database at national level. So we've been very busy in the past 2 years. We hope we'll be even busier in the next 4 years of the initiative. And my colleagues will be able to provide you more detailed information on the projects in each of these countries in the next days of this course. Thank you so much to everyone. Blaise, over to you.
Thank you, Alina. Thanks so much for that. And fantastic to hear, again, of all the work that's being supported through the World Bank and the Global Road Safety Facility in relation to road safety in our region, and in particular to see those specific examples. And we, of course, encourage all of our participants to look for those, whether they're in your country, or, of course, to get in touch if there's something there that would be interesting for your particular country and we can explore further. Right, I'm going to pass over to introduce our next speaker now. But just before I do, I know some people have arrived a little late. So just quickly, 2 things. One is to confirm we will be sharing all the presentation materials after the session. So thank you for all those queries on that. And if you do have any other queries, please, or comments, please use the Q&A function and we'll be happy to answer them. Okay, so now we're moving into our first session that's really investigating the global plan for the second decade of action on road safety. And our next speaker is going to be talking particularly around the first key recommendation area, but also across all of them. And our next speaker is Rob McInerney, who's the Chief Executive Officer for the International Road Assessment Program, which is a registered charity with the vision for a world free of high-risk roads. With RAP projects and programs now active in over 100 countries worldwide, Rob works closely with key development bank, political and technical leaders from each country to build capacity and deliver large-scale and long-term road safety benefits through the provision of safer road infrastructure as part of their own RAP programs, so really getting that localized knowledge and approach. Rob was awarded the iRAP Global Road Safety Award in 2017, the Fellowship of the Australasian College of Road Safety in 2015, and is a two-time winner, I see here, of the Prince Michael International Road Safety Awards in recognition of the work of iRAP globally. So with that, I'm now going to pass over to Rob. Rob, my friend, over to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Blaise, and it's a pleasure to be with you all today. If we can go to the next slide, please, because I think we all have a really important job to do over the next decade. As Blaise said, and Dave has said, we've been given a second chance. We didn't hit the target in the first decade of action, and we must hit that target of halving road deaths and injuries by 2030 in this decade. Next, please. And to do that, the World Health Organization and the UN member states have all agreed on this global plan that brings together all of the elements of the safe system, making sure our transport planning is right, safer road infrastructure, safe vehicles, safe road use, and how we look after people when they are injured in a road crash. Next slide, please. So our opportunity is to work together in iRAPs. We're really looking to form the Partnerships for 2030 Impact. As a small charity, ultimately, the power of what we create is by working together with the development banks, with government, with supplier networks, with local experts to make those results happen. And we have a great foundation of activity right across the Asian region: China RAP, MyRAP in Malaysia, Thai RAP, India RAP. We've got program activities in looking at the attendees for today in just about every country of the people who are attending today's event. So there is already some great momentum, some fantastic foundation work to begin. And ultimately, what we measure is most important is saving lives and leveraging that investment to save lives through safe road infrastructure. Next slide, please. And as Dave introduced, the world has agreed 12 global road safety performance targets. And importantly, for safe road infrastructure, we cannot fall into the trap of complicating what needs to be done, because it's actually very simple. Number one, which is target 3, is make sure that all new roads that we build are safe for everybody who uses them, 3-star or better for all road users. And the second one is to target either the existing investment or new investment onto the existing road networks, whether it's in the cities or on the rural highways, to actually progressively upgrade that network to 3-star or better by 2030. Our estimate is that you will achieve 60% of the global goal. We will save more than 450,000 lives per year if we can achieve that goal of 75% of travel on 3-star or better roads by 2030. Next, please. And the global plan outlines 7 key areas where we can run through some very practical steps to make that happen. And I'll be running through those 7 recommendations today, and you'll hear a lot more about each of them in detail over the 5 sessions in this webinar series. But importantly, I'll also point to some very practical actions you can make sure you take away from this event today and start making sure it is a decade of action in your country. Next, please. So just as a very quick introduction, and you'll hear more about this from Greg and other speakers over the event, but the star rating and all of the iRAP free tools are there because of the generous support of our donors, like the FIA Foundation, the Global Road Safety Facility, and our development partners. But simply, if we can go from a 1-star road to a 2-star road, we will halve the level of death and injury. We will halve it again going to 3-star, halve it again going to 4-star, and we'll be approaching vision zero, no deaths or injuries on our road, if we can reach 5-star performance. And we have a whole range of tools available at that web link there that look at crash data, infrastructure ratings, trauma estimation, investment planning, the design aspects, network scanning, performance tracking over time, and how that feeds into policy and management and the ultimate financing of roads. Next, please. So let me start with the first recommended action in the global plan, and that is to establish functional classifications for your road network and associated star rating standards. Now, for many of you who've been involved in functional classifications of road networks, what I would say is, in history, we've looked at land use. In the future, I'd like you to look at it in terms of human use. It's not about just whether it's urban or rural. It's actually about whether there are pedestrians there, cyclists there, motorcyclists, buses, cars, trucks, public transport. Think about the human use, not land use, when it comes to functional classifications. And quite simply, the way we look at it is, if you've got lots of pedestrians or cyclists, then in the bottom right corner, you should be targeting 5-star performance where there are lots of pedestrians and cyclists. In the top left corner, if you've got lots of vehicle occupants, motorcyclists, public transport, target 5-star there. If you've got lots of everybody in all forms of transport, then let's target 5-star for everybody. And then decide what volumes you are willing to tolerate only 4-star and then only 3-star. And again, ultimately eliminate 1- and 2-star roads right across Asia and the Pacific. Next slide, please. So 2 practical steps for you to make that happen is target 4 says to get to the point where 75% of travel is on 3-star or better standard in your country. So the first question is, where is 75% of travel? Now, we've been working with TomTom to answer that question, at least for vehicle occupants. And you can see the example here from Thailand. In Thailand, 75% of travel for vehicle occupants happens on only 4.6% of the Thai road network. That is very achievable between now and 2030 to bring up to a 3-star or better standard. And I'd encourage you to draw and print a map for mass transit and freight options. Where are the rail units? Where are the public transport systems? Then draw a map for where the highest volume, busiest roads are for pedestrians, then for cyclists, then for motorcyclists, then for vehicle occupants. They'll be slightly different networks, but they will really focus your attention on those users and a functional classification based on human use. Next slide, please. And then once you've got those networks identified, and again, you could bring a group of experts in your country and just use a highlighter pen on the map if you don't have great data, because you will know where the busiest roads are. but then look at setting ambitious but achievable targets by 2030. Perhaps the top 10% of travel, those inner city areas, should be 5-star for everyone. Then we can move to the next 25% of travel where you're targeting 4-star performance. And then the final 40% of travel up to that 75% target, making sure it's at least 3-star standard. And at the very least, eliminate 1-star roads from the rest of your road network, progressively bringing them all to 3-star or better over the long term. And don't lose sight of using crash data. Alina introduced the driver system, but also many of the regional road safety observatories are creating better crash data systems. It's important that you use that historical crash data to target activity as well, because it may be a low volume road where lots of people are getting killed or injured, either as pedestrians or motorcyclists or vehicle occupants. So you need both that infrastructure performance data and the crash data together to ultimately target action across your country. Next slide, please. The next recommendation is to update design standards based on road function. And once again, please do that based on human use. Where we have lots of pedestrians, don't allow high-speed traffic, because it's the equivalent of walking alongside the edge of a cliff for every one of those pedestrians, whether it's a school kid going to school or it's just any of us on our journey to and from a workplace or home. Likewise, on our highways, we also see these high-speed undivided roads where trucks are missing us by only this much. We need to update our design standards based on those road functions. And Greg will be taking you through more of these examples, and there's some fantastic resources to help you do that. But if you can do that systematically at the national level, you will ultimately fix every future road design in your country. So that's a very important first action. Next slide, please. And so an immediate action for you to take is there's bound to be a few road projects that you have that are in the design stage right at the moment. We have a star rating demonstrator tool that Emily will talk more about shortly. But it's a very easy tool to be able to have a look at a road design and see, what are you about to build? Are you about to build a 1-star road for pedestrians and cyclists and only 2-star for motorcyclists and vehicle occupants? If you are, can we fix that before it's designed? If we can click next, we'll see that transformation from 1 and 2-star to 5-star for everybody. And maybe 30-kilometre-an-hour limits are part of the solution, but we can explore this before the road is even built. So please check some of those roads you are about to build and fix it before it's built. Next slide, please. The next action is around specifying an appropriate star rating for all designs, and importantly for each road user, each human form of mobility. Make sure that is happening. This is in support of Target 3 that Dave introduced to make sure all new roads are built to a 3-star or better standard for all road users. But practically what it means is just adding one paragraph to your road design specifications. The new roads shall be designed to maximise lives saved, reduce injuries, and the star rating performance for each road user should be subject to the minimum acceptable standards. So for example, if your functional class was highly active, lots of pedestrians and cyclists, and low motorisation, not many cars and vehicles, then you might be looking to set a target for 5-star for pedestrians and cyclists and 3-star or better for motorbikes and vehicle occupants. You can do that for every design going forwards and build that into your national specifications. Next slide, please. So what's an immediate action you can take is talk to the engineering teams, talk to groups like the Indian Roads Congress and those people in charge of your national design standards and update those standard design specifications. Check them against the functional use that you've come up with and the targets that you are setting for their star rating performance. Make sure that by design, you are building safe roads, and it's reflected not in road designs that just increase speed and traffic flow, but designs that save lives. And it's built into the designs themselves right from the word go. So look for those opportunities immediately in your country. Next slide, please. The next one is to tackle what one of the most important and immediate vaccines for roads is, and that is to create safe speeds. Can you design the infrastructure so that it naturally creates the speed environment that you're looking for? You can see an example from the biggest project in Fortaleza in Brazil, a very colourful example of transforming a city street that looks all about cars to one that looks all about humans and people and pedestrians and life and livelihoods. A real transformation there in Fortaleza. Likewise, a great example from Shanghai, where the iRAP team has helped to deliver 5-star for pedestrians and cyclists with some high quality infrastructure provision for those specific vulnerable road users. Next slide, please. So as an immediate action, can we suggest you identify those high risk locations in your country, either through the star ratings or the crash mapping, and identify a few of them and go in there and transform the speed. Look at a few examples, one in urban areas where you can bring it down to that 30 km/h survivable speed limit for just about every road user. A lower volume rural undivided highway where you look at ways of bringing the speeds down to 80 km/h or less. Or expressways where with maybe speed cameras or other activities that you're bringing those speeds to a manageable, safe level of 100 km/h. Some very tangible examples that you can use as demonstration projects in your country. Next slide, please. The next recommendation in the global plan is about undertaking road safety audits as part of that road design process and confirming that it meets the global 3-star or better target. And road safety audits are now very established, and the Asian Development Bank, for example, in Carrick, has got a fantastic resource with the road safety audit manual for the region. Likewise, there's an example from Austroads from Australia that is widely used throughout the region, and that has just been newly updated in January this year. Very well established process. And likewise, together with the Global Road Safety Facility, iRAP has developed a star rating for design software tool that's free to use and makes it easy for you to confirm that that design is 3-star or better before it's built. Next slide, please. And so one immediate action is to bring these two things together on one of your active projects. Make sure you do a high quality road safety audit that includes the star rating as part of that. And again, the Asian Development Bank, Safe System Solutions and iRAP have been working together in the Carrick region to bring these two processes together. So it's really easy to deliver the audit recommendations and the before and after star ratings together. Next. And from Indonesia, an example where when you achieve 3-star or better, recognize that, get it certified and celebrate your great achievement in bringing a road to 3-star or better standard for all road users. Next slide, please. The next recommendation in the global plan is about crash mapping and star rating and safety assessments on existing roads. Crash mapping is an important historic look, looking backwards about where have people been having crash problems. Now, traditionally, that's been viewed in more advanced countries that have got really good crash data. But with the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory, you will transform that right throughout the region and through great resources like the Driver Initiative, where you can see examples here from the UK, from New Zealand, and the Driver example from the Philippines in Manila, there in the bottom right. The star ratings as well, if we can go next, is really highlighting the infrastructure performance, taking into account the speeds on the roads as well. An example from Mexico that have now assessed their entire national network 3 times already in 2010, 2015, and again in 2021. An example from Queensland in Australia, where I am based, where they've also assessed predominantly the majority of their road network. And if we go next, we also have some fantastic initiatives using artificial intelligence and machine learning to use everything from satellite data in Vietnam to identify high-risk schools to LiDAR from TomTom and Anditi to be able to automatically assess the star rating of a road using that digital data. So some impressive opportunities to scale this right across the decade and to give you the baselines you need. Next slide, please. So a very quick and practical action is if you have crash data, generate a crash map on your road network. Ideally the whole road network, but at least where 75% of travel is. And having drawn up those maps at the beginning of the recommendations, target the star ratings for that particular user. It might be pedestrians in and around your major city centres, or it might be for vehicles and motorcyclists across a broad range of roads across your network, like that example from Thailand. Next slide, please.
Just about 5 minutes left, Rob.
Okay, great, thank you. And I think we might have skipped 2 slides there, I'm not sure. Oh no, that's great, thank you. So the next thing is once you've got all of that data, and again, most of the countries in the region already have quite a lot of this information already. So I would reinforce to look at what you already have before you're collecting new data. But as Mayor Bloomberg himself said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And if we can set performance targets at attribute level, we can understand the individual components that lead to run-off road crashes, head-on crashes, and pedestrian injuries. So what percentage of your vehicle travel is on roads with dangerous roadsides? What percentage of vehicle travel is on high-speed undivided roads? What percentage of your intersections have no provision for pedestrians? This data becomes very powerful at the attribute level to then drive the investment decisions that will follow. Next slide, please. And so you can generate these attribute baselines for both the star ratings for your various road user groups across the whole network, and then for each of the individual road features that matter as part of building a safe system for everyone. 85% of the roads where people walk have no sidewalks and high-speed traffic. That gives you a very clear focus on lowering speeds and building sidewalks. Likewise for undivided roads, unsafe roadsides and intersections. So you can see this power of the data to then drive your investment over the decade. So I'd encourage you to make very practical steps to use your existing data or newly collected information to generate these baselines in 2022 so that you can really lay out the platform for action going forwards. Next slide, please. And then the last part of this is to invest in the safe road infrastructure and celebrate. You will not save a life until the road is upgraded. We need to use this data and this information to ultimately feed into the investment planning process of your government, to build domestic financing, to leverage the World Bank and Asian Development Bank support, to introduce new private sector results-based financing to bring roads to that 3-star or better global standard. And every time you do, celebrate that, ribbon cut those, involve your president and prime minister, the minister of transport, the minister of health, ribbon cut every one of those 3-star and better roads, whether it's outside a school gate for school kids or on one of your major highways in the country. If we can celebrate every life saved, it will be a worthy achievement and will put us on the right path in this decade of action. Next slide, please. So in closing, how will you make sure it is a decade of action? In summary, generate 75% of travel maps for your country. Set ambitious and achievable targets by 2030. Check the roads you are about to build. You can't afford to build a brand new 1-star road. Update your standard design specifications. Target the high-risk sites and transform speed on those roads immediately. Order and star rate your active projects. Generate crash maps and star ratings for those high-volume roads in your road network. Generate the attribute baselines and the targets this year for the 2030 goals, and then ultimately invest in safe road infrastructure, celebrate and save lives. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Rob, and particularly for ending on that very positive note. And also, I think, really important message right throughout this is to remember that although we are talking about road infrastructure, the real thing we're wanting to do here is focus on the impact on the people that are using that infrastructure in cities and regional rural areas, wherever it might be throughout our region. So thanks so much for your comments today. Just a reminder, we are collating your questions and comments, and we'll be having a Q&A session later on. And if you do require translation into Russian language, please do select the interpretation button at the bottom of the Zoom screen so you can access the Russian translation there. Okay, let's move through now to our next presenter, who will be looking at safe system infrastructure. So let me warmly welcome Emily to the screen. There she is. So Emily McLean is the Portfolio Leader for Infrastructure Safety Management at the Australian Road Research Board, which is Australia's national transport research organisation. In this role, Emily focuses on providing practical tools and evidence-based support for targeted, effective decisions and investment in safer infrastructure, which is managing the transport network to reduce the risk of crashes and minimise the severity of those that do occur. Emily is responsible for coordinating and developing ARB's road infrastructure risk projects, including the Australian Road Assessment Program, AUSRAP, and Rob pointed that just before, and the Australian National Road Assessment Model, as well as leading ARB's contribution as the International Road Assessment Program Centre of Excellence in Australia. Emily is a transport engineer with over 18 years experience in engineering, policy development and advocacy, and her most memorable project to date was helping to establish iRAP in Vietnam. It's fantastic, and hi to our participants in Vietnam. And Emily is based just up the road from me in Melbourne, Australia. Emily, the floor is yours, and warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Blaise, and thank you for everybody who's attending today. As Blaise mentioned, I'm from the Australian Road Research Board, or ARB, and we're actually owned by the agencies who are responsible for transport and roads. We've been around since 1960. In terms of road safety, we conduct research, we consult on safety projects, and we provide support and expert advice to implement the vision of no deaths or serious injuries on our roads. ARB has been an iRAP Centre of Excellence for over 10 years. Personally, I've been involved with AUSRAP, which is the Australian RAP program, since its early days in 2005, and I recently joined ARB to lead the Infrastructure Safety Management and iRAP's Centre of Excellence. So next slide, please. So I've been asked to present to you today on the safe system infrastructure, which forms part of the safe system. So most of you will have heard of this approach by now, so I'm just going to recap it quickly, just to make sure everybody has heard about it. But across the world, we're moving on from a traditional model where we blamed the road user. Instead, we're adopting a safe system approach, and this aims for 0 deaths and serious injuries. The safe system recognises that people make mistakes and they shouldn't lose their lives or suffer serious or life-changing injuries as a result of that mistake. So it recognises that we're humans and there's only so much physical force that our bodies can tolerate in a crash. It recognises that road safety is a shared responsibility of road users and those who design and manage our roads. And also that we need to build a forgiving road system. So where safe vehicles, safe road users, safe speeds, safe roads and post-crash care all work together to form a strong system. So that if one part of the system fails or falls down, the others will still protect people. In taking this approach, we commit to proactive improvements to make sure the entire system is safe rather than just reacting to locations or situations where crashes have occurred, because we know this isn't necessarily an indicator of future crashes. So with the traditional approach, we might have looked at a crash, for example, between a vehicle and a pedestrian and said that the pedestrian was at fault. They were distracted and they walked out onto the road, for example. If we apply safe system philosophy to this, we acknowledge that the pedestrian was distracted. They made a mistake. They walked out onto the road when it wasn't safe to do so. However, we recognise that providing them with a signalised crossing facility could have encouraged the pedestrian to cross only when and where it was safe to do so. If it's a high pedestrian area, vehicle speeds could have been reduced, for example, knowing that at impact speeds above 30 kilometres per hour, that pedestrian is unlikely to survive. And vehicle technology could have detected the pedestrian and braked to prevent the crash. And post-response care could have been timely and further medical help was nearby. So it's important that all of these work together in a safe system. Next slide, please. So before we go any further, I thought this would be a good time to gauge where everyone on this webinar thinks that their organisation is on the journey to a safe system. So Blaze, I'll ask you to put a poll up on the screen now. And I'd like everybody to think from 1 to 5 about what your answer is. So 1 is the traditional thinking, where we acknowledge that some deaths on our roads are inevitable. And typically we blame road users for the mistake that led to that crash. At the other end of the scale, if you think that your organisation is aligned with safe system thinking, you'd rate that as a 5. So acknowledging that road deaths are preventable, that there's a shared responsibility between road users, designers and managers. So if you think your organisation is on the journey of safe system thinking, you'd rank that as a 5. And if you think your organisation is still potentially in the more traditional realm of things, please rank that as a 1. And if you think it's somewhere in between, then you pick whether that's sort of closer to the traditional thinking or more safe system aligned. And I just want to use this to get everybody thinking about where they think their organisation is. There's no right or wrong answers. We've obviously got a lot of different people from different areas across Asia Pacific. So some organisations are going to be very traditional in their approach, and some might have fully adopted a safe system approach to road safety. So we'll just give you a couple of minutes to vote on this. If everybody could please choose. Reminding you that 1 is that more traditional thinking where we're reacting to crashes, for example, and 5 is safe system thinking where we're proactively looking for the risk and seeing how we can make that system work together.
Okay, just giving it 10 more seconds, Emily, just to allow any last person to get in their responses. And also a reminder, you can use the Q&A box also to let us know a little bit more detail after the poll if you would like about your experience in your organisation. So now I'm just going to end the poll and I will share the results. Thanks to everyone for putting in their responses. And Emily, I hope that you can see it now on your screen.
I can, thank you, yes. So we've got quite a lot of people there who are in the middle, which I guess is good to see. A lot of organisations are making that move to safe system. Quite a few people there are rating at 4 or 5, which is great to see. Obviously organisations who are on board with safe system and really adopted that way of thinking, and then recognising as well that we do have some more traditional sort of organisations who are with us as well today. So thank you for that. That just gives us a really good idea of where everybody's at. So next slide, please. So today I've been asked to present on the infrastructure component, which is an essential part of that safe system wheel that you see there. And sometimes you might also see safe speeds presented as part of this, as part of the safe roads and roadsides component. And I'll touch on this later in the presentation. But what it's important to remember, as Rob's pointed out, is that we make sure that we eliminate or minimise risks for all road users and not just focus on drivers. And again, reflecting on that safe system and the system as a whole, making sure that the infrastructure provided accommodates for human errors. So an example of this would be a motorcycle rider who leaves their lane. Are there rumble strips to alert them whether they've left their lane? Is there a sealed shoulder that's provided to give them space to recover? And lastly, is there a safety barrier that would prevent them from hitting a tree, a pole, or another hazard? So this is how we need to design to accommodate mistakes so they don't end up as deaths or serious injuries. Next slide, please. So in Australia, we have a safe system assessment framework that was developed by iRAP for Austroads. And while this has been set up in the Australian context, I wanted to touch on it now because it really provides guidance on treatments and how well they align with a safe system. So a primary treatment, for example, in the green box that you can see, is one that's truly safe system in that it will virtually eliminate the potential of fatal and serious injuries for the crashes that you would expect on that type of road. If this can't be achieved, then the next treatment that you would look at are a step towards safe system. So there's supporting treatments in that blue box there. So they're treatments that improve the ability for a primary treatment to be implemented in the future, but they're potentially not that full step to a safe system treatment. Stepping down the hierarchy, if you couldn't provide that treatment, you'd then have a look at those other supporting treatments, which don't change the ability for a primary treatment to be implemented. And this is in the purple box. And lastly, if you go down that scale of hierarchy and looking at applying the primary safe system treatments first, you get to the bottom of the scale where there's non-safe system treatments. So these are treatments that would reduce the ability for a primary treatment to be implemented in the future. So it's really about making sure that even if you can't get to that end goal of a truly safe system treatment right now, that you're planning for that in the future and that the decisions that we're making now aren't impacting our ability to improve safety into the future. So as an example, I've got there on just on the right hand, if we could go back one slide, just to the right. Yep, sorry, just back one slide to the safe system one. Yep, thank you. So on the right there, I've got an example for a cyclist. So a primary treatment, a truly safe system treatment would be a separate cycle path for them. So making sure that they're out of the flow of other traffic and that they're also separated from pedestrians. If you move down the ladder and down that hierarchy and you look at very low speeds, for example, and shared pedestrian or cyclist paths or a bicycle lane. So they're a step towards that safe system, but they don't necessarily provide a full safe system treatment. Now, if we can go to the next slide, please. So what I want to do now is just step you through what this looks like in practice. So we talk about safe system and we talk about these treatments, but what does this mean in reality on the ground? In the image on the left, we've got a typical road. There's only a line of paint that's going to stop drivers or riders from a head-on crash. In the image on the right, that road's been upgraded. It's had a barrier installed in the median, and so the head-on crash risk is virtually eliminated. Although a flexible barrier would be a safer design than a hard concrete barrier like this one. And there's now clear line marking on the right-hand example off to the right-hand side beside the edge of the embankment to guide drivers. But a truly safe system would also look at a barrier on the side of the mountain to prevent any vehicles from crashing into this. The next slide, please. So the next example is what we would consider a supporting treatment, especially if it's done right. So if in the instance that you couldn't roll out that median treatment, we'd want to make sure that you're rolling out a treatment that actually supports you to end up at that safe system treatment at the end of the day. So a wide centre line will move the vehicles further apart and provides a small amount of room to recover. If it's designed correctly and the road width is provided, a median can be retrofitted at a later date. So the crash reduction for head-on crashes is around 5 to 17% for a wide centre line, depending on the width. And if you are interested in crash reduction factors for various treatments, the iRAP toolkit provides a lot of information on this, and that's well worth visiting. Next slide, please. So the next crash type that I wanted to look at is intersections. So in this example, you'll see that there are a couple of side roads that are staggered and they've got the red arrows pointing to them. This means that sight distance is potentially compromised from each of the side roads, and you've got vehicles coming in at different angles. So installing a roundabout reduces speed. It reduces the number of conflict points, and it also changes the angle of the crash, making them much safer than either an unsignalised or a signalised intersection. In this way, roundabouts are a safe system treatment or a primary treatment. Next slide, please. So signalising an intersection is considered a supporting treatment. What I want to highlight for this intersection, though, is the addition of a dedicated bicycle lane. So again, a supporting treatment for cyclists, and a bicycle box ahead of the traffic to allow them to store in front of vehicles when the lights turn red. But what this intersection also has is a raised platform ahead of the intersection. So in the image on the right-hand side, you can see the zigzag marking, and that's actually a raised platform. This is designed to reduce traffic speeds as they enter the intersection and is considered a primary treatment. So in this way, we can start to combine treatments to make sure that we're moving to the safe system approach. Next slide, please. Thank you. So for motorcycles, like bicycles, a primary treatment would be providing a separate motorcycle lane, as we show on the right. This virtually eliminates the potential for any rear end or side swipe crashes, especially with other larger vehicles, although there is still the potential for motorcycle to motorcycle crashes. We'd expect these to be less severe though, because there's better similarity in the mass of motorcycles versus motorcycle or a truck, or motorcycle versus a car, for example. Next slide, please. Thank you. So when designing treatments, it's also important to make sure that they're appropriate for all the road users and don't shift the problem or create additional hazards. In the image on the left, we have a barrier. It has an aggressive end and no underrun protection for motorcyclists. The example on the right shows a much lower risk treatment. The barrier tail curves away from the road, so there's no aggressive point of impact, and underrun protection for the motorcyclists is also provided. So in this way, we need to make sure that when we're rolling out treatments that we don't shift that problem or put in an additional hazard that didn't already exist, especially thinking about all of the road users that are on that road. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in the example on the left, we have a bicycle rider. They're mixing with traffic, including large buses. And this has the potential for severe outcomes from rear end or side swipe crashes. In the example on the right, we have a much safer separated bicycle path, which is a primary treatment. Next slide, please. For bicycles, the next step down from that primary treatment would be a bicycle lane, which is a supporting treatment and reduces the risk for cyclists. And this is often able to be provided in the already existing road width, rather than having to widen the road itself. Thank you. The next crash type I wanted to look at is crossing crashes for pedestrians. So when pedestrians are mixing with traffic, especially where there's multiple lanes or high speeds, as shown in this example on the left, it's high risk. As mentioned before, we know that at impact speeds of over 30 kilometres per hour, the chances of a pedestrian surviving a crash are very low. So a primary treatment would be to provide a crossing point. And what is interesting about this example is that pedestrian fencing has also been provided to separate people and vehicles. A refuge is provided in the centre of the crossing, and the crossing is on a raised platform, again to reduce speed. These are supporting treatments. A note, however, in this example, that the crossing isn't clearly brought to the driver's attention. Next slide, please.
Just under 5 minutes left, Emily.
Thank you. So I present another example where the pedestrian crossing is much more visible through the use of lines and a coloured road surface. Simple, but effective. Next slide, please. So I just want to touch briefly on speeds and speed limits, recognising that in many countries, the travelled speed is actually much higher than the posted speed limit. Infrastructure can be used to support slower speeds and reinforce the speed limit. By making sure that the speed on the road is self-explaining, So that is, the environment looks and feels like you would expect a low or a high-speed road to look like. This, in turn, encourages compliance with speed limits. Next slide, please. So I have a couple of examples now of infrastructure being used to support reduced speed limits. These two examples here use painted line marking to reduce the width of the road. On the left-hand side, you see they've made plenty of space for pedestrians, for example. On the right, the curve radius has been tightened up and the road has been narrowed. All of these lead to a slower speed environment perception. We might just skip this slide, please. Yeah. So Rob briefly talked about or touched on the iRAP star rating demonstrator before, and I just want to really quickly give you a little bit of a demo of this now. It's an interactive tool. It is free to use. It calculates the star rating for a cross-section of road based on the infrastructure risk. So that is the features that impact the risk of a crash occurring and the severity of a crash that if it does occur. A star rating from 1 stars being the least safe to 5 stars being the safest is provided. And this is able to be calculated for vehicles, motorcycles, bicycles, and pedestrians. Next slide, please. So the demonstrator can be used to calculate the star rating of an existing road, but also to calculate what impact any safety treatments you're installing might have. And as Rob's pointed out, it's important to understand how safe the design of a road is before you build it. So it can be also used for that. I've provided a link to the demonstrator webpage, and this presentation will be circulated, so you will have that, and also a live demo which explains how to use the tool. Next, please. So when you go into the tool, you're presented with a range of typical roads. In this example, I'm going to choose the low standard rural road, which is the one in the orange box there. Next slide, please. This then populates information about standard attributes for this type of road. You go through and review all of the fields for this. So in this example, it's the roadside. So that you need to know information around the distance to an object, what the object is, and whether or not there's rumble strips, for example. Next slide, please. So this example just demonstrates the impact of changing the speed limit. It's that low standard rural road on the left with a speed limit of 100 kilometres per hour. And you can see from that, there's a star rating of 1 star for vehicles and 1 star for motorcycle riders. If I wanted to understand the impact of increasing the speed limit to 110 kilometres per hour, that's the example on the top right of your screen. You can see that I've changed the speed limit and the operating speed. So the star rating is still 1 star, but the risk score, which is the figure underneath the star rating, has gone up from 76 to 102, which is an increase of 33%. So it's far riskier at that higher speed than it was before. Likewise, we can look at the impact of reducing speed, which is the example on the bottom right-hand side. I've reduced the speed limit to 90 kilometres per hour, which reduces the risk by 27%. Next slide, please. So in the previous example, you'll notice that we didn't have any star ratings for pedestrians or cyclists. The tool assumed that for a low standard road in a rural area that there wouldn't be any. But if, for example, you knew that there was 2 towns and lots of people walked between both of those towns along this road, you can actually add those. So we make a change and we apply pedestrian flow information into the tool. So you can see in the example on the left, I've added volumes just of 1 to 5 people on either side of the road and also crossing the road. Then what I've done is in the example on the top right is applied a treatment to start to understand how you might investigate proposed treatments or designs that you've got in mind. So the top right is a treatment with a physical barrier between the road and the pedestrians, and this provides a 5-star rating for pedestrians. In the example on the bottom right, I've applied a treatment of a footpath that's located 1 to 3 metres off the side of the driving lane, but it doesn't have a physical separation. So you can see this still improves the safety from 1 to 2 stars, but nowhere near as much as in the first example. So this tool can be useful to help you understand not only what a road rates in terms of safety currently, but to better understand what impact treatments can have on safety and what you might be able to change in your design at the design stage to improve that safety as well. And these can be used as part of the conversation around why we need to invest in road safety. I know that was a question that was asked in the chat earlier, but being able to say to people, well, investing in this increases the star rating from 1 star, for example, to 3 star, you start to get metrics that can be used to support that investment. So I'll wrap up there. I wanted to leave you with some further resources that might be of interest and links on where to find these. I won't go through them in detail. You can have a look at them when the slide pack is handed out. But I do want to say thank you for everybody. I hope you found this worthwhile. And thank you very much. Over to you, Blaise.
Thanks so much, Emily, and great to finish there with those resources, which will be shared, as you mentioned, these slide decks will be shared with our participants so you can directly access those resources following the session. Okay, thanks also to everyone for sending in many questions and comments through the Q&A. We are compiling those and we'll try to get to as many as possible in the Q&A at the end of the session. But before we do that, we have time for one final presentation, which is from Greg Smith from iRAP, and also on behalf of Blair Turner from the World Bank Global Road Safety Facility. I'll invite Greg to the screen. Greg's going to be talking about best practice examples in design standards and guides, which specifically rates to the second key recommendation in that global plan, which again is really the key resource that we're referring to in this particular course. Greg is the Global Program Director for iRAP and responsible for leading its programs globally, including in Asia Pacific region. He works closely with governments, multilateral development banks such as World Bank and ADB, non-governmental organisations and the industry to star rate roads for safety and identify cost-effective life-saving treatments. And there's been a lot of comments and questions on cost, which is so important. Prior to joining iRAP in 2008, Greg was the research manager for the Australian Automobile Association and the Traffic and Transportation Manager at Kogarah Council in Sydney, Australia. There's a bit more in your bio there, Greg, but actually I'm going to cut it short because I want to ensure that we've got time. So Greg, over to you.
Thanks, Blaise. And firstly, let me say thank you to you all for taking the time to join this webinar. I really, really appreciate your commitment to this and to road safety globally. Without you, without the people on the ground making the change, we're not going to achieve the target for 2030. So thank you very much for joining. I'll get started right away, just to say thank you to my counterpart at the Global Road Safety Facility, Blair Turner, for contributing. So as Blaise said, the focus of my presentation really is on that second recommended action within the global plan. And if you haven't had a chance to see the global plan, I really recommend that you download it and take a look. It really is, in many ways, a great template that countries, provinces, and cities can take and adapt for your local context. It's very practical. I'm going to be focusing on putting in place legislation and standards to support safe design. Next slide, please, Noel. So I'm going to focus in on 4 key documents or 4 resources. I've selected these 4 for a couple of reasons. One is that they're consistent, all of them are consistent with the safe system principles that Emily just spoke about. They're also very much consistent with the global plan. In many ways, they're very, very capable of being used to support your efforts to achieve those UN Global Road Safety Performance Targets, number 3 and 4. Each of them bring a different perspective to safety. The Street Design Guide focuses on cities, for example, whereas the Asian Highway Standard focuses on the highways. But they're also very complementary. And so when you're putting together your own or reviewing your own standards, they're an incredibly valuable resource that you can draw on to help meet all the demands that you're going to face. And they're all free. So they're freely available for everyone to use all the time. The only caveat to that perhaps is that the the last two on the screen there are not quite published just yet, but they're going to be quite soon. I'm going to focus on the content of these, and I'm not going to focus so much on the process that you might need to follow in order to adopt them for your own jurisdiction. That's definitely something that we can discuss in the future. Next slide, please, Noel. So the first one is the Global Street Design Guide. Next slide, please. So just to quickly show you where that's available, on your screen you can see the URL down there in the bottom left-hand corner. If you go to that link, you're going to see a screen that looks like this, and there's a button circled in red that says download this file. You can actually purchase this, and that's purchasing a hard copy, so you would need to pay for that, but the download is totally free, and there's some options for different languages at the top of the screen. Next slide. One of the many strengths about this guide is it really puts street design into the broader context of sustainability. It reflects a point made in the global plan for the Decade of Action that says by 2030, 70% of people are going to be living in cities. And that if we don't design our streets differently than we often do now, in a way that really enables greater movement of people rather than just vehicles, then our cities are going to really suffer and the climate will suffer as well. So the guide really highlights that by focusing on the social, environmental, and cultural context of the streets, that is the place that the streets are in, and the people who currently use those streets and who you want to use the streets in the future, we can really create these environments that are genuinely safe. And it very much picks up on the point that Rob was making earlier, thinking very much about designing your hierarchy of roads reflecting the people using the streets rather than just the traffic flows. If we do that, we can create these roads that are genuinely safe, that are 3, 4, 5 stars for all road users, but which also bring so many more benefits that go beyond just safety. They include creating a really high quality of life for those living in the city, for creating environmental sustainability, economic sustainability, and social equality. So in this way, that guide, the Street Design Guide, really makes road safety both an end in itself, like a high priority itself, but also a key stepping stone for so many other benefits that can be brought to a city. Next slide, please, Noel. The guide really, it provides these powerful arguments and evidence to support, I guess, more inclusive street design. So that can be really, really valuable to you if you're trying to make the case with decision makers or with the community about why local design guides and standards need to be reviewed and updated. So on this side, there's a lot of examples from the guide about the economic and environmental impacts that you can achieve with really smart, inclusive design of your streets. So just to take a couple of examples, many of cities have found that by making streets safer and more accessible for pedestrians and bicyclists, they've seen that retail and economic activity along those streets increases. That's because the people walking along the road or cycling on the road stop in and grab a meal from a local restaurant or do their shopping in the local store. That sort of behavior just doesn't happen in the same way when people are in their cars. They don't stop at those sorts of stores very often. So you can create economic activity and life by redesigning your roads to make sure that everyone is able to access it easily. And in another example, in really hot climates, streets that integrate beautiful design of trees and plants, for example, are empirically cooler than those streets that don't. So there's measured data about how much cooler the streets can be when you have a lot of shade from large trees. That makes it much more comfortable again for pedestrians and bicyclists to use the roads, but also it helps in many other ways. That planting can help to make management of stormwater and drainage easier and more cost effective. Because there's less concrete to build, there's actually less maintenance and initial construction costs to put in as well. And of course, that very much links back through to safety again as well. So as I said, if you're looking to build the case for why you should do a review of your standards and legislation and make the case for different designs, this guide is really, really powerful. Next slide, please, Noel. The other thing it does is provide a very clear process that can be followed about how to develop safe and really inclusive street designs. So on the screen there, you can see the process steps that is suggested. And on the right-hand side of the chart, you can see that those move through the project planning, project implementation, and project completion phases. So it begins, for example, with analysing the site. and getting to know the place and the people that are using that street. It then moves to a really important part that's often forgotten by many road engineers and designers, is the engagement with all the stakeholders. Really understanding who is using the road, what they think about it, what their experience has been, what they wish their experience could be of the roads. What you find when you conduct really strong stakeholder engagement is you will find all sorts of nuances and insights about how a city can be developed that you wouldn't get if you were just taking a more traditional approach. So that process presented in the design guide is really powerful, and again can be taken, adapted for your local context and put into a local design standard and design guide. Next slide, please, Noel. And perhaps the most interesting part of the guide is it presents so many different suggestions about how roads can be designed and how layouts of roads can be changed to cater for all road users. So this is an example where on the left-hand side, you can see what a street might typically look at, where there's a lot of space for vehicles, but very little formal space for other road users like bicyclists and pedestrians. On the right-hand side, you can see a road where the layout has been changed to formalize the space for the bicyclists, for the pedestrians, for the vehicles, for the parking, but also do some of that planting with the trees that I mentioned earlier and adjust the speeds. What the manual really sets, or this guide really sets out, is that by changing the nature of the streets, you can actually really manage the demand for travel along the road. If you get more people able to walk safely and cycle along the road, it has a measurable impact on the number of cars you need to cater for. And so you don't need to build such a big road to cater for so many cars all the time. That's sometimes a challenging concept, but there's plenty of evidence in the guide to support that. The other thing that we've done with the team is to star rate those designs. So that link on the screen is an accompanying manual where you can see what the star ratings of each of those designs would be. On the left, you can see the road would be 1 and 2 stars at that intersection. And with the redesign, it achieves 5 stars. So again, giving you the strong evidence about the safety impact of these designs in the guide. Moving to the next slide, Noel. So we're going to talk about the Asian Highway Network Standard. So moving to the next slide, please, Noel. And so the Asian Highway Standard and Guide was developed with the UN team here in Asia Pacific, so UNSCAP. For those who are not aware, the Asian Highway Network covers about 145,000 kilometres of roads across 32 countries. Within UNSCAP, there's a working group from all the member states that meets every 2 years. This standard and the accompanying guide was specifically designed to support achievement of UN targets 3 and 4. So really how to set in place standards that will achieve that 3-star or better rating. It applies to primary roads, motorways or expressways, class 1 roads, class 2 and class 3. So a large span of highways. It came into force in 2018. And while it targets the Asian Highway Network, there's no reason why it can't also be really highly applicable to other highway networks throughout the region. Next slide, please. To find the guide, there's a couple of different places you can look. On the left-hand side shows the UNSCAP website. There's a hyperlink up the top there that you'll be able to click on. And partway down the screen on the left, you're going to see the link to the safety standard. That's going to bring up the very technical standard. There's also the accompanying guide, which is available on the Road Safety Observatory website, so that URL on the top right-hand side. What that guide does is take the very technical standard and elaborates more with photos and plain English explanations of what is meant by some of the technical aspects. Next slide. So as I said, the way that the standard is presented does have a very technical presentation. So this table, there's a lot of data in here, and a lot of information in here, but basically what it's setting out is across the top in the columns, you've got the different road types and design speeds, and across the left in the rows, you've got all the different road design attributes that should be considered in order to achieve the goals of the safety standard. So just to highlight a couple of those, Noel, if you go to the next slide, we'll see that although it's called the Asian Highway Network Standard, it actually runs through, Asian Highway Network of course runs through cities and towns and villages. And in many cases, those highways actually become local roads as well. So local communities are using these highways and mixing with high-speed traffic. While ever there's not some sort of bypass built, the only way to manage that very safely is by lowering speed. So it provides good information about how you might manage speeds coming into and out of villages and towns, and talks a lot about how traffic calming and speed management techniques can be used. Next slide, please, Noel. Emily mentioned wide center lines, so they are also included, particularly for the higher speed class 2 roads, which are undivided. So that's something that I think we haven't seen used extensively across the region yet, but has enormous potential as an interim step towards really achieving safe system compliance across the network. Next slide. And of course, motorcyclists are such an incredible challenge here throughout the region. And so it does discuss when exclusive and non-exclusive motorcycle lanes ought to be considered. But also in terms of safety for motorcyclists, there's a lot in the detail about how the pavement is designed, the visibility of intersections needs to be considered as well. We're going to see or have a little bit of a presentation from our friends in Malaysia in coming webinars that focus more on motorcyclists as well. Next slide, please, Noel. So that's the Asian Highway Network standard. That's, again, it's available freely for everyone. The next one is a guide that's produced by the Global Road Safety Facility, or it's being produced, and it's going to be published in coming months. Next slide, please, Noel. So this one is very much focused on updating or providing a global resource that can be used all around the world. It focuses in on all the topics that really are necessary to be considered in order to integrate safety well into road designs. It's going to be online, it's going to include lots of photos and lots of case studies. And the idea is really how to bring the safety of people to the forefront in design. We don't have a link for that document just yet, but if you take a look, there's a link on the bottom left-hand of the slide, which is the place on the facility where you can register for their newsletter. So you'll be able to keep up to date, and I'll notify you when this is published. Next slide, please, Noel.
5 minutes, Greg.
Thanks. So it covers key aspects of safe design, including the safe system, vulnerable road users, different cross sections and alignment, intersection, but it also talks about tools for safe outcomes, such as road safety audits and star rating for designs. Each section is set out in a very standardized way, so it makes the information very accessible. Next slide, please. Something that makes this guide different than some of the previous versions is that it focuses very much on the most vulnerable road users. And it also has very much a focus on low and middle income countries, which in many ways have very different challenges to the high income countries in terms of safe design. It includes, for example, quite a bit of an emphasis on the importance of safety metrics in design. So ensuring that we can really measure the likely outcomes and impacts of different designs. So that includes, for example, what length of the design is rated 3 stars or better, what length of the design would put pedestrians walking along the road without a sidewalk, for example. So really bringing to the fore the things that we can measure and the things that we know really impact on safety. So it really is, again, another resource that you will be able to use to borrow from and put into your own local design guides to reflect your local situation. And last segment is talking about the Road Safety Toolkit. So next slide, please, Noel. So the toolkit is something that's been available for more than a decade, actually, at toolkit.irap.org. In fact, it's one of the most popular road safety websites in the world. It's very, very highly used. We're currently moving the toolkit from an old version to a new version. And thanks very much to people who took the survey about the toolkit, about how they use it and what they would like to see. We've been able to make a lot of really significant improvements. So the new toolkit is going to be published in coming weeks. What it covers is information about different road users, So pedestrians, bicyclists, heavy vehicles, cars, public transport, for example, different types of crashes that occur, different types of roads, different types of treatments, and different management aspects of management. Importantly, within that treatments box, that red box that you can see, there's 3 categories, one about vehicles, one about people, and one about roads. So the toolkit, it doesn't just focus on infrastructure, it actually attempts to cover the whole range of topics in road safety. Next slide, please. Again, it presents very accessible information. So this is a sample of one of the treatment pages about medians. It provides basic information about what a median is, what we mean by that, and some links to related types of treatments that sometimes are used together. It provides lists of benefits of why you might use different median or median in designs. It also lists different implementation issues, like things that you need to make sure you take care of and consider when you design. Because while medians generally are great, if you don't do it well, of course, you can create some problems. It includes at the bottom of the screen there, a link to the star rating demonstrator, so you can quickly jump into the tool and test out the effect of changing the median design on your road. It tells you in the top right-hand corner which of the global road safety targets this type of treatment supports. So in this case, targets 3 and 4. It provides some information about the treatment summary. So what sort of cost are we looking at for this treatment? What sort of treatment life and the effectiveness? How many lives might you expect to save over time? And also that list on the bottom right-hand side of case studies where this sort of treatment has been used in the real world. So for each one of the topics, there's a page just like this. Next slide, please. We're also really building the image library that's available. So there's currently more than 600 images available. Those images are going to be able to be clicked on and zoomed in on so you can see the detail, but also you'll be able to grab those images and use them for your own manuals and own guidance and own projects as well. And the next slide, please. There's more than 100 case studies on the toolkit. So these range from talking about safer people type treatments like helmet wearing programs, safer road treatments, safer vehicle treatments, and case studies relating to management. So there's more than 100 case studies there right now, but we're going to be expanding that all the time. So again, if you have a great case study you would like to share, we're going to be very keen to help share that with the world through the Road Safety Toolkit. And the next slide is, in some ways, this one is incredibly valuable as well. There's more than 100 reference documents currently listed on the toolkit. And again, that may increase as well. So these 4 references that I've talked about, these 4 tools or 4 documents that you can use to help with your legislation and standards, they're going to be accompanied by more detailed documents that are available in this list as well. We're going to include, for example, good practice examples of actual design standards used in countries that you may wish to adopt to make sure that you comply with the safe system approach. So with that, I think I'm through to the last slide and within the time limit. Just to close up, a couple of actions for you to think about is initially, like, how does your jurisdiction rate in terms of having legislation and standards in place? Do you have those mechanisms in place in a way that complements the global plan and the safe system? If not, what is the process that we can use to get them in place? A few things you might consider is who is responsible for legislation and standards. So for instance, in India, the Indian Road Congress is an incredibly important player in this. So getting in touch with them would be really valuable. Thinking about what would be needed to formally ratify the safety standard for the Asian Highway Network, so that UN SCAP standard, could you formally adopt that as legislation in your country so that you ensure the Asian Highway Network meets that high safety standard? Can you adapt all the design guides and information that we've presented for your local context? So for example, could we help you translate the street design guide to your local language? And do you and your counterparts need more training and technical support to do that? So these are the sorts of things I'd really encourage you to think about on your journey to implementing or getting ready to implement that recommend action in the global plan. So thank you, Blaise, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much for that, Greg, and also for sharing particularly those resources there that everyone can access, but also talking a little bit about how they can then be explored to get really specific into practical use in different countries. What I might do for time as we move into Q&A is actually ask Noel to stop sharing his screen, and I might actually invite back our speakers all to turn on their videos so that we don't have to jump back and forth between. We do have a few minutes for questions, and I'd love to be able to get some time for those if possible. So I can see Alina there. I'll invite Emily, Dave, Rob, and Greg back as well. So a huge thanks to everyone for your comments and questions. I know that many were also answered live in the Q&A, which we'll continue to do throughout. I'd also note that there was a lot of questions about whether the materials will be shared afterwards. So I can confirm they will be. And so please look for those. And if you do not receive those, please let us know. I also note there were some questions, quite a few questions that were very specific technical questions. Probably in this forum, we might not have time to go into that level of detail. But what I would suggest, if you have very specific technical questions, we will, of course, try to get to them. But also we have our contact details available, and I'm sure that our experts would always be happy to get into the weeds when it comes to specificities around particular design guidelines or approaches, etc. So with that in mind now, I will come to some of the questions that came through, and I'll start with you, Dave Shelton. There were quite a few people interested in the India State Support Program that you mentioned, and wanting some more details about that. Perhaps for time, what we might suggest is that you're able to put in whether there might be a web link or something in the Q&A box, or we can share it with participants afterwards. But in just a couple of minutes, did you want to elaborate just briefly on that program?
Yeah, certainly. I have actually placed into the Q&As for 3 or 4 people the links to have a look at what's publicly available at the moment. There are 14 states that we're working with, and I've listed those states there for those who are interested in that. We're working with Morth and each of the state departments of transport, road authorities, and lead road safety agencies. The we in this is the World Bank and ADB working together. So have a look at that. You'll find some information there. It will become more and more informative as we refine and finalise this agreement. It's not yet approved, so there's still work going on to finalise it. But it's great to see the level of interest.
And Dave, just a quick other one. I noticed some people mentioning in the comments and questions about there's a desire to have a place to share ideas and approaches and publications, etc., in and around this topic that we're discussing through this series. I don't know if you wanted to just briefly talk to where the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory is moving in that space, and what some of those possibilities are there.
Sure. Well, firstly, one of our objectives in the observatory is to provide a place for people to go to for good knowledge on road safety. And quite often we'll simply be referring people over to iRAP or other very reliable, high quality sources of information. Have a look at the APRSO website, aprso.org. And you will find there quite a lot of links to material. We're going to continue to build this as we go, because we know access to good, reliable information that speaks to an Asia Pacific audience is really relevant to our members. So keep an eye on it.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Dave. Alina, I'll come to you next. And there were a number of questions that came through for you, but for time, I'm probably just going to focus in on one that was a question from Lon in Cambodia, asking about what you see as some of the key achievements that have been happened in that country, and also some of the challenges that you've seen in that country. And again, that might also be some challenges that you see as relevant more broadly in our region as well. So over to you on that question, and thanks, Lon, for your question.
Thanks so much, Brad. This is not an easy question, and I think I can talk for hours to respond to this question. There has been a lot of progress in Asia Pacific. I've been working there, as you know, for more than 4 years now. I think if we speak at the regional level, what I've seen through my work is this shift in mentality. You know, people becoming more and more aware about road safety and more interested in road safety, and acknowledging especially the fact that road engineering has a lot to do with road safety. And I think this is very crucial, as we've seen in the presentations that we had today, and also as we will be seeing in the next sessions, how with some low cost measures, simple measures, engineering ones, we can save lots of lives. So this shifting mentality, which I've noticed, this could be one of, you know, this is something that for me as a regional level, but I'm also very, very happy with the partnership that we have with the Asian Development Bank, especially in launching the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory. I think this is really a really good achievement to by working with different partners and be able to launch this. And Cambodia is actually one of the first countries to join the Asia Pacific Road Safety Observatory. So congratulations for that. And I do think that through this network that we have put together, we will be able to deliver even more amazing activities together. Thank you.
Thanks, Alina, and thanks for the question again, Lon. Rob, I'm going to turn to you now, but just before I do, I noticed that quite a few questions came through on road safety audits, which of course I know is relevant to your presentation. What I've done though is actually forward them through to Phil Jordan, who will be talking in the next session, and he's specifically going to focus in on road safety audits as an area of focus. So rest assured to Fadi and others, we will definitely get into details on road safety audits. Rob, again, quite a few questions coming through to you, and again, for time, I'm just going to pick out a couple. Maybe one I can look at is a question that came through from Pasindu, which is about how the fatal accident cost reduction based on star ratings is established. What is that process? And if you're able to talk to that briefly. And then the second question I'd like to ask you is from Michael Tessitor, who asked what the rationale is in the new global plan for the targets being 3-star rather than 4 or 5-star. Much as Alina mentioned, I'm sure you could speak to that for a few hours, but I'll give you a couple of minutes on both.
Excellent. No, thank you very much, and great questions. So firstly, in terms of the fatal and serious injury estimations that form part of the iRAP process, many of you will be very familiar with the star ratings. They obviously get talked about quite a lot, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star and others. What is behind the star ratings is evidence-based research studies that show the direct impact of different road features on fatal and serious injuries that actually happen. So the star rating model itself is built up of these risk factors that can highlight that if we put in a footpath or a raised crossing or a barrier along the roadside, what impact does it actually have on death and injury? So in addition to the star rating model, we then also have a fatality estimation model. So the star rating relates to you as an individual, and then we bring in the traffic volumes and look at the mean speeds along a road to actually come up with a fatality estimation based on the road features, based on evidence-based research, and based on the speed and flow at the location. So that's how we're able to calculate the fatal and serious injuries at a location. Then we also use some work informed by Dada and McMahon that actually can turn that into an economic cost to the country. And therefore, we're able to generate typical benefit cost ratios or internal rates of return that Treasury would like to see to build that business case for safer roads. So that's the first question. The second one, very quickly, actually relates to what we've just run through, is in the first sort of 10 years or so of iRAP's operation around the world, we generated lots of these investment plans, and we started to see the pattern about where the economic business case to upgrade roads was almost always there. And that was at that 3-star or better standard. So that's why that's been established as the global minimum standard. It's economically viable, it's achievable, and you can just about get it everywhere. So that's why 3-star or better was adopted. But obviously, as you move into higher volume areas for pedestrians or cyclists or motorcyclists or vehicle occupants, then 4 or 5 stars should be your target. And that comes back to those recommendations with understand the human use of the road network and set targets based on the demand of the location. Thanks for both questions.
Thanks, Rob, and thanks for those details. Okay, Emily, I'll come to you now. And it's kind of no surprise to me as we're in the Asia Pacific region that there was a lot of questions in relation to what you presented specifically around motorcycles. So I'm actually combining a few questions here, but particularly a couple from Prabir and also from Nguyen. So Prabir mentioned in India, for instance, there's nearly 40% of fatalities and many injuries around motorized two-wheelers. You mentioned there the segregated infrastructure, but can you suggest any other approaches? And Nguyen's question was also whether raised platforms would be an option for safety for motorcycles. So again, for time, I know they're big topics, a couple of minutes, but lovely to get your thoughts on that.
Yep. So thank you. Great questions. Yes, I did see a lot of motorcycle chat going on in the chat box. Yes. So look, obviously the safest infrastructure that you can have is having those motorcycles separated from other traffic. And that would be, that primary safe system treatment that you'd look at. Obviously, it depends on what's going on, but there's often restrictions in terms of the land use, if there's buildings built up on the side of the road, for example. So other things that could be looked at are providing, a motorcycle lane that's in the general traffic, but a separate lane as opposed to something that's completely separated. Reducing speed limits is another option. Especially if you're sort of talking about cyclists rather than motorcyclists, but just to throw that in there as well. So there's definitely other options that you can look at. And again, if you do have a lane, there's options to separate that lane. I think it was, I can't remember whose presentation it was now, but somebody had the example of, the little bollards that were popping up. Sort of the lane was next to the rest of the traffic, but it did have some form of separation to prevent vehicles from entering that lane. So even though it wasn't a completely separate segregated bicycle path, it was a lane next to the traffic. So that's another option as well. And the second part was the raised platforms. So I'm not aware of the research around motorcycles and raised platforms, but certainly they're not designed to be sharp, short, sort of bumpy platforms. They're, a slight ramp upwards and then quite flat as well. So I don't believe that there'd be serious issues with those. Obviously, line marking and paint is something that needs to be considered, especially where there is a high number of motorcycles. But I don't believe there's any issues with those.
Thanks so much, Emily. And then briefly to you, Greg, 2 quick ones. There were many questions and comments that came through about accessing the iRAP, various iRAP tools that have been spoken to today. I know you answered a lot of those, but if you wanted to just briefly talk to that. But also there were quite a few questions that came through, including from Angelou, which was about how you factor in human behaviour when you look through your different methodologies. So again, I'm going to ask you to be quick, but yeah, love to hear your responses.
Yeah, so first point is that the iRAP tools are free. They're there for everyone to use at any time. So I'm going to put into the chat some links that you can take a look at. For example, the demonstrator, which Emily and Rob referred to, totally free. Anyone can jump in there and use it right away. There's also quite a lot of training that we provide, very technical training about exactly how you become an expert at using the iRAP tools. So I'm going to provide a link to you about that as well. And also, I guess the last point is we're in an accreditation scheme for those that want to really become professionals in using the iRAP tool. So I'll provide a link about how that works as well. But in any country wanting to use the tools, if they haven't been used before, the first step really is working with experts who maybe want to develop their skills about how to use these tools and start taking the training and start practicing using them. They're there to use. I'll also put into the link link to the methodology. I saw we got quite a lot of discussion questions about how does the iRAP methodology really work? On the second question, the linkage with human behavior, there's this very strong linkage between human behavior and road design. We know that the way that you design a road can seriously influence the way drivers behave on the road. The idea of the self-explaining road, for example, is one that creates an environment where it's very clear to the drivers about what speed they should be driving. So we often talk about, in terms of the speed management coming into a village, for example, doing treatments, safety traffic calming treatments that really make it clear to the driver that they're coming in from a highway environment into a community environment where there's different people going to be using the road. Pedestrians and bicyclists are going to be more prevalent. So it's really the road infrastructure signaling to the drivers that something is changing. I think that's incredibly important. We know that if you just build a highway straight through communities without fundamentally changing the nature of the road, the drivers don't change the nature of how they drive. They continue to drive fast. And they take little notice of a speed limit sign without that. Another one is thinking about how pedestrians really behave on a road. We know that the very classic example is putting a pedestrian bridge in place. Seems like a good idea in theory, but we know that the behavior of people crossing the road is often very different to what the designs say they should behave like. And so even with a bridge, people will tend to cross across the surface level of the road, which is much, much more risky. And so that's an example where actually you can use the engineering design to shape the behavior of people, but often the design also needs to be reflective of how people really want to use the road. There's a lot of interconnection there, and that's something that can be brought out quite clearly when you do a star rating project, but it does really emphasize the importance of having a good understanding about the local context and how people want to and do use the road network.
Great, thanks Greg, and thanks to all of our speakers today, Alina, Rob, Dave, Emily, and Greg, again, for your contributions today. Much appreciated. Noel, I'll just get you to quickly put up the last couple of slides so we can finish off today's session. Thank you. I think we'll get the slides up. There, in fact, is the APRSO website that was being mentioned earlier by Dave, so aprso.org. So I think Noel's just getting those up, but let me then just mention that we will, of course, be back at the same time on Thursday, the 10th of February. We'll be hearing, again, further detail about these aspects in relation to safe infrastructure. We will have sessions on further, again, on safety inspections, road safety audits, black spot programs, and more in relation to the global plan. If I can just go to the next slide, Noel. We'll also keep on letting you know of some upcoming events in the coming months in relation to road safety. So you can see there the Asia and Pacific Transport Forum, which will be coming up in April with some pre-forum events at the end of March. Please look out for that information. Also, the Transforming Transportation online event, which is coming up next week, that looks like. I want to get out. I'm getting a nod of the head from Alina. So please look for that. Some very relevant information about road safety, but also how road safety sits within a broader sustainable mobility context. And we will tell you right the way through and remind you of the UN high-level meeting in New York on road safety at the end of June, which is really an event for heads of state and senior leaders in government. So please do encourage that. The attendance of that from within your country, but also I'm sure there'll be other side events that will be happening alongside that. So with that, I'll say again, a big thanks to all of our presenters today, a huge thanks to our participants for your active engagement, and we very much look forward to seeing you back here at the same time on Thursday for the next session in this series. Thank you so much and have a nice day and evening.